I see the person in person. How many people are online?
Oh, well, we're not online yet, so we'll know later. All right, Kevin, we are live.
Good afternoon, Springfield.
Good afternoon.
Now, where do I go to share my screen, Rob?
So there should be a share screen at the bottom of your Zoom window. Should be right in the middle. Oh, I need to make you host. 1 second.
Gotcha. I do see it now.
Okay, you should be able to share your screen now.
All right, let's get this thing started. Move this down here. Welcome, everybody. My name is Kevin Seidel. I am one of the SBDC consultants here in our Springfield office, and I'm really excited to chat today with everyone, talking about advertising platforms outside of consulting with the SBDC. I am a professor in the business department at Wittenberg University. I teach entrepreneurship and marketing. We've got a couple of different marketing classes that all revolve around the world of advertising and advertising platforms. And I'm a business owner myself, so I own several businesses, and we use all sorts of different multi-channel advertising platforms. So I've got just a lot of experience and a lot of good info to share with you. Today, we're going to talk about the history of advertising, some pros and cons. I'm going to give you a list of platforms that you can use, and hopefully you can find it useful. And if not, you can always set up a meeting with me as your SBDC consultant, and we can continue to have this conversation. So welcome. Let's jump into it. So, before I just give you a list of advertising platforms that you can utilize for your small business, I thought that it would be best for us to learn a little bit about the history of advertising first. So first, we've got the Webster Dictionary definition of advertising, which is the action of calling something to the attention of the public, especially by paid announcements. So we are definitely talking about paying for advertising today. I too often run into small business owners that want to utilize word of mouth. They want to utilize social media, but they don't want to pay for it because their belief is that it's free. And so I want to comment right now and make sure that we are all on the same page. We are definitely talking about paying for advertisements today and advertising, and what does that look like? So this is what I like to call BI, before internet. We can laugh at this picture of a caveman with a big fish, obviously, because it's true, right? This is what life was like before the internet. But the reality is, this is where advertising was born. Not only long before the internet were we advertising, but really long before commerce. We had one caveman who was really good at fishing, and one caveman who was really good at building fire, and the caveman who was good at fishing had a ton of fish and no way to cook them, and the caveman who was really good at building fire didn't have anything to eat or cook over the fire. And one day the caveman with the fish went up to the main cave road and made some version of a painted sign, for lack of a better word, like a billboard, right? Probably painted a picture of a fish on a rock with an arrow saying, "I have fish down here." And the caveman with fire wandered by one day, and they started to figure out commerce. And this, again, was established because of the picture, right? The caveman who saw the picture, it made a call to action. Hey, this guy down here has fish, and I really want fish, so I'm going to go down there and see if I can barter with him and get fish. And really, the only thing that this historical reference proves is that advertising works. U.S. ad spending is forecasted to grow over 6%. It's a $250 billion industry. We are spending infinite hours planning and optimizing this paid media. And so it really does need to be a source that you use to get consumers. When consumers are using this paid media when making their purchase decisions, right? And I put together a lot of research in my role as a professor, and it's funny because I harp to small business owners a lot that they need to be paying for their advertising. And so several years ago, I wanted to do some research on how high the paid advertisements out there were ranking for consumers on influencing the choice that they had when making a buying decision. And so this is another part of the history lesson that we're going to talk about before we go in. And you would think that since I've designed an entire hour-long speech to talk about advertising platforms, you would think that paid advertising was number one on the list, right? Or maybe even 2 or 3, right? But if it wasn't 2 or 3, it would absolutely be in the top 5, right? Well, it's not even in the top 5, which takes us to some of today's talk. It's actually the 8th thing that consumers consider before making a buying decision. And so here are the 8, or rather the 7 before. And so these are the things that impact consumer decisions before they consider paid advertising. So we're talking about personal experience. Obviously, if you have a great experience with a brand, you're more likely to go back to it. Brand familiarity, word of mouth recommendation from trusted resources like friends and family, online reviews from friends and family, expert reviews or influencers, discounts, coupons. So we would call those call to actions, news coverage, and then finally brand advertising. And the reality is these top 7 are either tied up within paid advertising or they are extremely hard to control. You don't own what other people say about you. You don't own the messages of others. So we pay for advertising, and we should pay for advertising so that we can control that message, right? And before we move forward with discussing the importance of that, I want you to think about some of these things that other people are talking about. How are you prioritizing your efforts as either a marketer, a brand ambassador, or the CEO of a company to integrate more intentional opportunities for consumers to have a great experience, and furthermore, to share that great experience. We get wrapped up in we're doing a good enough job, or that sales are as much as we need them to be right now. And that's really focusing on the good, which then allows our experiences to just become good. And being good is just the prerequisite for really starting your business, but good doesn't make people talk. Consumers don't say, hey, let me tell you about this perfectly adequate experience that I just had at this local business. And so keep that in mind as we go through this today, that as you are paying for advertising, you can limit some of this budget in the future if you are truly going above and beyond with the experience that you're giving people with either your product or your service. And so that really allows you to cut down on future expenditures, because you can still grow your market share even through this great experience, but you really need to pay for the advertising to get enough of those people up in the front. And so, having said that, we're going to spend today talking about a few iconic brands. I'm going to spend some time talking about Coca-Cola, going to talk about Nike, going to talk about Amazon, we're going to talk about McDonald's. The thing about these four brands is, they're the biggest, most successful, some of the most iconic companies in the world. And this did not happen by accident. They're industry leaders today, in today's world, because they were industry leaders many, many years ago, really dominating the advertising space for their products. They made the decision, some of them 40, 50 years ago, right? I know Amazon wasn't around 50 years ago, but McDonald's and Coca-Cola were, and Nike's close to it. They made decisions several years ago to say, hey, paying for these ads and paying for this this brand vision that we are attempting to deliver is worth it. It's worth it because we are not only producing sales today, but we are growing market share for the future, which means we're going to have that long past date, even after the ads stop running, right? They planted the seeds. And what I want that to represent today is, this is not a get rich quick scheme talk that you've chosen to attend today. This is for those who are truly interested in learning more about growing their market share so that they get long-term future revenues from these advertisements that they learn about today. Long-term growth for their business and their market share. That's what we're talking about. This is not a, hey, do this one thing today and tomorrow you'll make, $500. So, and really what I wanted this list to represent is that even though brand advertising is the 8th thing that impacts a consumer decision, it still works very well. And there's a misconception that it doesn't work, that paid advertising doesn't work. And so we're gonna start there and talk about some of the myths behind that. So I meet with small business owners all the time, and they tell me, one of these, when we start to talk about paying for advertising, this is what they typically start to tell me. We can't afford it. I don't want to trick my customers. We have enough business. People ignore paid ads on Google, commercials, print, billboards, whatever, or it's too complicated. And so I want to dispel some of these today. I actually was having dinner recently, and a friend made a very familiar statement that said that I'm not influenced by advertising. And so, if that was true, right, then how does all this work? How did Coca-Cola get to Coca-Cola point, right? How did this work for Amazon, right? And for those that work in marketing and advertising, this is a familiar thing that they also hear. And I just point out that U.S. companies are on track to spend $70 billion this year in paid advertising, and they're not doing this in things that don't actually work, right? Companies expect advertising to produce returns, just like any other investment that they use for their business. And you, as a small business owner, should not feel any different. You should expect a return on that investment. And so for anyone like my friend at dinner who would say that advertising doesn't work, the reason they're thinking that is because they're trying to make it work immediately. And successful advertising rarely succeeds through a call to action. Instead, what it does is it creates and elicits a positive memory and a feeling or an influence about our behavior, and it continues to drive that point home over a long period of time. And over that period of time, it eventually encourages us to buy again, to buy for the first time, or to buy again, or replicate what we've already done. And again, no one likes to think that they're easily influenced. In fact, there's plenty of evidence that suggests that people respond negatively to the naked attempt at persuasion. And so really, if you think about the companies that I just named, right, if they're the kings and queens of advertising, what they are the kings and queens of is really leaving that lasting impression. The best advertisements use images, jingles, stories that focus on attention of the brand. They're not just creative for creative sake. It's not like they just sit around and say, hey, what would be really cool is this group of polar bears drinking Coca-Cola at the pole, right? There is a mission behind every single one of those creative ads that we see. And so again, I want to just go through this list and tackle it, right? We can't afford it. I would immediately say that you can't afford not to do it. This brings in business traffic, which ultimately drops costs all around. The second one, I don't want to trick my customers. Look, don't falsely advertise and don't lie, but selling your product is not unethical, okay? You are trying to own the message of what your consumers know about or think about when it comes to your business. Don't let that message come from the word of mouth of someone else. Own it and push it out there as best you can. It's not a trick, right? The next one, we have enough business. Enough for what? If you're maintaining customers, that's great. But if you're just maintaining customers today, you are losing market share. And that is the name of the game. You need to be growing your market share for tomorrow so that you can continue to be in business tomorrow. If you're focused on how many customers you had today, you're just being short-sighted. And you really need to be thinking long-term. Is this a business that you have longevity? 10 years from now, what is this going to look like? And, again, the next one, people ignore paid ads on Google, whether it's Google or TV commercials or print or billboards, people are not ignoring them. We're going to talk about Google for some time today. And, if you think for 10 seconds that people are ignoring the paid ads on Google, I challenge you to get up and drive to the Dayton or Columbus airport and buy a ticket to San Francisco, then rent a car and go out to Google's headquarters and look at how many $1 or $2 billion buildings they've built there in the last 5 years, right? It is working, right? People don't ignore it, and we'll hit on more of that in a little bit. And then last is it's too complicated, and really this is just a cop-out. It has never been easier. There are more software tools. There are more free resources out there available to small business owners between SBDCs, Chamber of Commerce, different events, free academies, YouTube videos. I mean, it is out there for you to learn. And to say that it's just too complicated could just not be any further from the truth. So, these are the myths. So let's start talking about how advertising works to dispel the myths, and then we'll jump into the actual platform. So, how is it going to work, right? Advertising helps a business to earn profits by enabling more people to know about the products and services, thus resulting in more sales. Advertisements help consumers make decisions regarding which product and service to buy, and with the help of advertisements, the consumer gets the best possible options. Let's take Nike for an example. We've talked about them a little bit before. If we were in person and being very interactive, I would throw it out to the group and ask, what do you think Nike stands for? And I know the answers that I would get would revolve around the swoosh. They would revolve around the slogan, just do it. And we could all say that, right? There wouldn't be a person in the room that wouldn't be able to discuss Nike at some level of confidence and talk about their brand and their ability to market their products. And I would then challenge you and say the same thing about Adidas. And I would ask you if anyone knows what Adidas stands for. And I have done this sort of thing before, and I have yet to find anybody that knows the answer. But Adidas stands for All Day I Dream About Soccer. So there you have it. That's going to be a Jeopardy question someday. And the reality is we know the swoosh and we know just do it, but we've never heard All Day I Dream About Soccer is the reason Adidas has the name Adidas. And the reality is Nike is spending 2.5 times the advertising budget that Adidas has to make sure that you see the swoosh, that you feel the just do it, that you elicit that workout or that trial that you're going through, or that extra push that you want to do today, or that you're going to go tackle a dream on a competitive field of some level. They've done their job to spend that money so that you think of that. And the truth is that they're doing that because it works. Their advertising budget is 2.5x what Adidas's is, and their sales are 4x, right? They do it because it works. It nets a return on investment that is a long-term benefit. As we continue to kind of look at these hows, you think about advertising, and I get this a lot, that we might continue to advertise to our base. And really, if we're just starting an advertising campaign, this is great. We need to get a really good base of loyal customers. Get your base, give them a great experience, but you need to continue to try to add to your base. you have to try to keep growing your base, or eventually you will flatline out with the loss of customers. So you need to keep adding. One of the companies that's doing a really great job of attempting to add to their base right now is Tide. Tide brought on a new national spokesman, and it's Rob Gronkowski, for any football fans out there. And if you are thinking, what does Rob Gronkowski have to do with doing laundry other than he gets grass stains on his football jersey, you're probably right. But the reality is Tide spent about 50 years building their loyal base of customers through advertisements. This loyal base is females aged 30 to 55. They have continuously brought out advertisements that resonate with women in the home doing the laundry and making sure that they understand that Tide is their best choice, whether that is being cost conscious, environmentally friendly, chemical friendly for those who have kids, etc. And again, they have spent 50 years crafting perfect messages to really dominate the women aged 30 to 55. And the reason is it's not women aged 65 is because the women aged 30 to 55 have kids in the home, and they're still largely responsible for the buying decision, even though we see a lot more men, right? It's not 1950 anymore and all the women are doing the laundry. We see men doing laundry. We see men in the grocery store buying Tide, but research is still showing that the women in the home are still largely responsible for the direction of what we are buying, right? And so they may not be using it, they may not be buying it, but they are still in charge of that decision. And so Tide has done a great job of marketing to them over the years to continue keeping that loyal base. But now they've switched to Gronk. Why Gronk, right? Why would they get Rob Gronkowski? Tide is trying to add to that base, and what we're seeing is Gronkowski appeals to men who, for the first time in this country, are staying single longer, which means that they are doing their own laundry more, and they're buying more laundry detergent than they ever have before. And if this trend continues, that demographic is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And Tide is planting their seeds today, knowing that this trend is likely to continue and elongate. And so as you see men who are aged 33 doing their own laundry, in 5 years, you're going to see men who are 35. And in 10 years, you're going to see men who are 38. And you're going to see more and more and more of them. And they are making that, they're planting those seeds today so that that market share continues to grow later on. And so as we understand that millennials are now the largest purchasing demographic that we have, for the first time, they've outgrown the baby boomers. Now that we have identified them as this largest segment, it's time for really smart advertisers and companies to make that investment in getting them on board with their products and their services. Understanding that, again, it is a long game, right? You're planting the seeds of today so that tomorrow your market share is healthy and strong. But the way that you do it right now is through this ability to pay for your advertising. So now let's take a look at the list of 10 that we want to go over today. And I told you we're going to spend time talking about Google today, so let's just put them number one at the top of the list. Google search ads. Used by more than 70% of the population, Google has become the mogul in terms of internet usage. So why wouldn't you want to put your ads right there at the top? 40,000 search queries per second. We're seeing 3 billion searches on Google per day. It's one of the best platforms for new companies looking to attract a greater audience and increase their sales. There's an example of what the Google ads, the paid ads look like. Obviously, what we see and what we run into is the Google searches, right? We type in what we're looking for, we hit enter, and a list of these things come up. 10 years ago, it was just a list of websites that you could go to, and now it includes so much more, including these paid advertisements. So here's kind of the story behind the paid advertisements. Google designed this amazing platform to perform searches on. It really was truly amazing. They're using algorithm and data centers to kind of put the best prediction of what you're actually looking for in front of you. And people started using it all the time. Google had a really hard time monetizing the searches at first. Everyone was hooked. But since it was all free, Google was at a real crossroads because they didn't really know how they were going to make any money. They launched the ability to pay to come up at the top of the searches for people, but not a lot of people bought in because why would they? It was still free to come up at the top. But along comes this glorious company out of Seattle, Washington, who had this quirky idea of selling everything from A to Z over the internet. And Amazon really became the first true adopter to the Google paid ad. And the story looks like they paid $10,000 in one day to come up on the top of Google paid ad searches. And they brought in $6 million in sales from that one $10,000 investment in one day. So if you could guess at what happened next, Amazon gave Google $60 million. That's what happened next. And they grew from a startup website adopter of the Google paid search ad to the largest retail store in the entire world, one that doesn't even own a brick and mortar retail store. Well, actually they do now, but as of a few years ago, they did not. And now if you perform a search on Google with the word buy in it, as in like buy video game or buy book or buy clothes, 99% of the time, your search is going to end up with an Amazon listing, a paid listing in the top 3. And the reality is, why does Amazon do it? Again, I keep harping on this because it's worth it. As I mentioned before, they spent $10,000 in one day, and they netted $6 million in sales because of it. They immediately saw the benefit to coming up at the top of the Google search ad list. And the reality is now, if you come up below the ad line, research suggests that your link has as much of a chance at getting clicked on as you do of getting up out of this meeting room, walking outside on this beautiful sunny day and getting struck by lightning. People are clicking on the ads. As I mentioned before, I would challenge you, to anyone who says they aren't clicking on the ads, to fly out to Google headquarters and tell me where all that money came from. It came from the paid advertisements. It's 90% of Google's revenue is coming from the paid ad section of Google.com. And so it is working. It is extremely valuable, and it's also not super challenging to create this for yourself. Some of the pros and cons of utilizing Google Ads. The pros, we can immediately reach potential consumers. 40% of the consumers will click on the first 4 results, as I mentioned before. And now that we're seeing the access of Google Maps and Google reviews all at the top of the page for people who are willing to pay for that, that number is getting higher and higher and higher. And it's not that 60% of the customers will click below the paid ads. It's that 60% of people who don't believe their response is in the ad section repeat the search and do a different search, right? They're not scrolling down to the bottom of the page, or they're not moving over to page number 2 just so that they can find your website. You can create your ads quickly. You can start them and stop them and pause them. And another pro is only when customers click on your ad do you actually owe Google any money. The cons, many businesses are doing the same thing, and only 4 are going to come up in this first position, right? Although Google has opened that up a little bit more to include maps, Google lists, Google reviews, etc. So there is some new things within here too, but it's competitive. And because it's so competitive, the costs are increasing. And another con is you have to have a website that Google can find to actually run the ad on. One of the myths that I hear, or when I talk to small business owners and I recommend that they use Google paid ads as a source of advertising to garner new business, is they tell me that they already come up when they search their business on Google. And the reality is, what's wrong with this thought is, of course you come up. If you type your business name into Google and hit enter, you likely are the only business around with that name. So Google is going to find exactly you and your website and put you up near the top. Also, unlikely companies are bidding to be around your website name, right? But if people already knew your name, they wouldn't be Googling you to begin with, right? They would just call you, or they would just go to your website immediately. That's not what people use Google for anymore. People don't go to Google and Google names of companies, right? What people do on Google is they Google their problems, right? They don't Google Sam's glass business. They Google, I have a broken window, and then they hit enter. And when they hit enter, Sam's glass business website comes up near the top. Well, at least if Sam is lucky, his website comes up near the top, right? So do not use your company as a baseline. Use the products and the solutions that you sell. Think about all the things that your consumer goes through, the pain points that they go through before they make a decision to buy the product or service that you are selling on your site. And when you walk yourself through those pain points, you'll develop a list of potential searches. So if you own the glass and window business, you might be thinking about what pain people are going through, which would be measuring my windows, or I broke a window, or my shower door is squeaky, a lot of different things that you would use glass and windows for. Those are the things that you are going to want to be coming up at the very top of the Google search. Again, people are not using Google to Google your actual business name. Number 2 on the list is Facebook ads. Facebook really pioneered the paid social network and therefore the ads as well. Right now, they're responsible for 25% of the world's total online advertising. Like Google, Facebook understands our habits and our routines. We give them so much data about who we are. It knows exactly what to place in front of us, urging us to click on it. So they place these very impactful ads when and where they believe you're most likely to interact with them. And they have a highly sophisticated algorithm system built to do this and enable this. And again, I know I keep saying this, but they do it because it works. And it's one of the highest ranked among small businesses because of the ability to really target very specific people, products, services directly to these consumers, especially if you need hyper local business, right? Restaurants where people typically only travel within 4 to 5 miles of a radius to to really become a regular at a restaurant, things like that, or brick and mortar stores. And so, some pros and cons here are you can target the right consumers. This can really help you generate sales in a short period of time because you can really utilize Facebook ads to make calls to action. And there's a big savings to it because of how hyper local you can get. If you are not working with a huge customer base area, it's really affordable to advertise to a small zip code or a high school community, things like that. You can really get very, very local.
Kevin,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question?
Yeah. Sure.
If your Facebook page doesn't have a really large following because you're new or you're just small, does Facebook care if are they going to show your ad to fewer people as long as you're paying them money?
No, that's a great question, Rob. So it's funny that you asked that because Google does do a version of that, right? So Google recommends websites based off of the popularity of the websites. So if your website is not garnering a lot of traffic and somebody types in a search in Google and they hit enter, it immediately looks for websites that have the content driving what the searcher is looking for. And then it will compare one website versus 1,000 other ones. And it'll compare a metric, which would be like length of time spent on a website, amount of unique users on the website. And it makes basically like a point system. And then whoever scores the highest on their point system will then get referred to the top of the Google list. Facebook is not that way. And so I'm actually really glad you asked that question. I was going to hit on it in a little bit, but I'll talk about it now too. You actually do not want followers. You do not want more followers on Facebook, on your Facebook page to increase your ads. As a matter of fact, if you have a lot of followers that are not engaged at all with your brand, you want to do your best to get rid of them. What Facebook wants is Facebook wants engagement. It wants likes, comments, and shares. So if you have, say, 10,000 followers on your Facebook page, but only a few hundred of them really truly are brand loyal and really engage with your Facebook posts, what happens is you get plus points like a basketball game, like a like is worth 1 point, a comment's worth 2 points, a share is worth 3 points. But what happens is Facebook is also keeping score in a negative column as well, which is saying, well, yeah, you know what? These 100 people, they liked, commented, and shared, so let's give them a plus 500. But they got 10,000 followers. And that means 9,900 people scrolled by this message and they totally ignored it. And we're giving them a -2 for each one of those. And now all of a sudden we're in a hole of minus 18,000 points. And it's really hard for us to get out of those. Facebook cares about the amount that you are willing to spend. Now, where what you're suggesting, Rob, where this does come into play is the more followers you do have, the more they like it and the more they comment on it, the more it will push outward to the next circle of influence, right? So if Rob has a page and I'm friends with Rob, and Rob says, hey, let's say Rob comments on this Burst footwear page that we have displaying on the screen. Hey, I just bought these Burst footwear shoes. They're 60% off. They're so comfortable. And then I like Rob's comment on there. It immediately identifies me as someone who might be interested in buying this Burst footwear. And what it does for me is it goes through my friend's profile and immediately identifies anybody. They score every profile. So I'll have like a like-minded score of say 80% with maybe 20 of my friends on Facebook, it'll put that ad in front of those 20 people. That can only happen when your sphere of influence is bigger and bigger and bigger, right? So in theory, yes, having more followers can give you a bigger reach, but the negative far outweighs the positive. With negative engagement, you do not want a lot of people following your Facebook page who could care less about your business. They don't live in your community. They don't actively shop on your website, right? Getting cousin Edgar to friend your Facebook business page is a bad idea unless you can count on cousin Edgar to like, comment, and share every single time you post something, right? If cousin Edgar just scrolls right by it on their Facebook feed every single time, that is a negative engagement and one that you do not want anything to do with. Does that make sense?
Yes, thanks.
All right. While we're chugging along here on social media, let's talk about number 3, which is Instagram ads. This is Facebook's number 1 and Instagram's number 2, and it's gaining steam and market share by the minute. So we fully expect in 2022 or early 2023 for Instagram ads to outpace Facebook in revenue. Instagram's seeing 1 billion users daily, and Facebook's number is just over that, and it is trending downward while Instagram is trending upward. So we're going to see more Instagram users daily in 2022 than we do Facebook users. And that, again, that is just going to continue to be a trend that we see. Like Google and Facebook, Instagram has algorithms in play here that are trying to get your paid advertisements in front of the most impactful people at the most impactful time. And the introduction semi-recently of Instagram's story feature allows companies to really tell the full story behind the story about products and services. And this feature can be used rather than telling some lengthy television commercial that could be really, really expensive. So we're seeing the replacement of that through these Instagram ads and social media. The pros is Instagram is highly appealing visually. This is all about the images that you produce. It's all about the colors. We're seeing the popularity with Instagram is growing through the younger generation. And so we're just more likely to see its growth continue, and we're going to see Facebook's market share decrease. This also Instagram was originally created for mobile. Facebook was still a desktop use when it was created. And as we moved to laptops and tablets, it continued to update, and now you can utilize Facebook on your phone. But Instagram was always designed to just be a mobile piece. And so the key to remember about that is we are using our phones more and more every minute. The use rate is going up and up and up. I saw some alarming statistics about the lack of desktops because of the use of mobile phones, and they're so powerful. There's the screens that they have. I mean, all of the functionality of them. It's just incredibly useful and comfortable to use, and it's becoming that way more and more. So if you want to be in the space where most of your people are going to be perusing advertisements, you want to be thinking about Instagram as you develop mobile friendly options to deliver or order or buy or whatever it is that you're trying to do with your business. The cons to this is, and I wanted to couple this with Facebook too. This is you need to follow an aggressive posting schedule. It is not enough to post on Monday morning because you're not busy, but then as lunchtime and the afternoon come, you don't pay any attention to it, and then the next thing you know, you wake up and it's Thursday afternoon. This is not a recipe to succeed in social media, which leads us to the social media myth. And the social media myth is that it's free. And the reality is, as I just mentioned, you have to follow such an aggressive posting routine and regimen that it's really not free. First off, to be a good performer, you need to be monitoring your posts all day. And if you have the time to do that, that's great. And if you actually have the time to monitor all the posting, then I guess it could be free of cost, but don't let saying that it's free fool you, right? If you are going to spend your entire day, your working day on social media, monitoring the post, making new posts, creating new content, posting it and tracking it all, that's your time, right? Your time is valuable, and people have a weird sense of this time that they think that, oh, because I didn't pay for it, it was free all along, right? Don't let free of cost fool you into thinking it's free. Your time should be very valuable, and that's time you're spending on social media. It's time away from your business. You're not monitoring your employees. You're not handling human resources, accounting, bill pay, etc. Right? And to be totally honest, you should be paying to boost. Right? Mark Zuckerberg did not get to a $1 billion net personal worth because people weren't clicking on all the paid advertisements. Right? Again, I keep saying it. People pay because it works. There is an investment to make. It is a long-term payoff. It will work. But again, you should be paying to boost. So it should be costing you money. And then, as I wanted to follow this up with what Rob and I just talked about, you do not want followers. You want the right followers. Don't mistake the two. Everyone out there is not your ideal follower, right? You want the right follower. Jumping to our next one is email marketing. So with email marketing, we can create personalized content. We control that message. We can use call to actions to improve our sales. So if we're running a big sale, that might be an email subject line that we use to target people to open our emails. We can communicate with our existing customers. We can generate website traffic. As I mentioned before, the better engagement we have on our website traffic, the more likely our website is to come up organically on a Google search. We can program, if we run through a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, we can program our email marketing to send out timely campaigns. So this could be to our users' birthdays or special holidays, sale dates. We can even generate auto emails when we have low inventory. So we can program our CRM or our point of sale system to integrate with our MailChimp or Constant Contact. And this is the stuff that I was talking about before. These things have never been easier to learn. I know it sounds overwhelming and it can sound complicated and daunting, but you could spend 1 hour on YouTube and you can learn how to integrate your Constant Contact email marketing platform with your point of sale system so that when you get inventory below 10 items, they can be marked down to 40% off of value, and you can pump out email blasts to sell them, right? And if you're holding on to product, that's something that you probably want to do. It can just remind people that you're there, and it can serve as a forum for self-promotion. And I see a lot of people do really cool stuff with email marketing. But ultimately what I really see people getting wrong is I see so many small businesses collecting email addresses and then not doing the follow-up. They're not actually sending us emails. And to be totally honest, what was the point then, right? What was the point of starting the collection of the email addresses just so you had them in case? You know, the point should have been to utilize them in an email marketing campaign and give them messages, tell them about deals, and do all the things necessary that good email marketers do. And if you're not collecting email addresses now, you really need to start doing that.
Kevin, sorry, I've got a question.
Yeah.
So, and you may be coming onto this, or I might have missed what you were going to say, but sort of listening to all this information, and I probably like a lot of people, it's a very foreign territory for me. So, are you when you talk about these different platforms, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, emailing, connecting it with your POS system, are we moving towards a company or people that you can pay to do that? Is that what you're?
Yeah, I am going to dive into like budgeting for this in a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, to me, I would be thinking about outsourcing this or hiring somebody full time to do it. And again, we run into this, I can't afford to do that. And my argument would be, you can't afford not to do it. If you spend $10,000 on these platforms, you should net $50,000 to $60,000 in sales. What does $50,000 to $60,000 of sales generate in profit for your company? That's only for you to answer. Is it 50%? If it is 50%, then we're talking about somebody's salary. We're talking about $30,000 to $40,000 a year that you can now afford to pay somebody. And when you generate those types of profits, it only makes sense to put more back into it again, right? And that is what Coca-Cola did 50 years ago. It's what McDonald's did 50 years ago. They saw the pathway. They did not just end up on top by random chance. They weren't just the luckiest people on the planet, right? It didn't just happen that 10 of the biggest companies in the world all got to be the 10 biggest companies in the world, and they all, by lucky draw, have the 10 biggest marketing and advertising budgets on the planet. That's not luck, right? They understand that if you spend money on this and stick to a regimented plan and monitor the success of it and follow through with great messaging and a great consumer experience, that you will continue to grow into the future. And that's why these companies are sitting in the positions they're sitting in today. It's not because they were smarter than you. It's not because they had more resources than you had, right? I joke with my students all the time about what Mr. and Mrs. Coca-Cola are up to today, right? And what are they doing today? And we talk about this in my entrepreneurship class. And the reality is they built a system within their business so that the marketing worked. The marketing pays for itself. They have $1 billion budget that they're utilizing. They have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people working around the clock on advertising and paid advertising. They're creating it, they're monitoring it, and the reason they do it is because it's worth it, right? I keep saying that slogan. So, but yes, we will get into a little bit more of that at the very end, and I'll try to hustle through here as I know I'm up on my time limit. So, you know, one of the main myths that I hear with email marketing is it's spam. Nobody's going to open it. Listen, if people get annoyed with it, they might spam it, right? Or they may click log out of it and say, I want to discontinue getting the emails. Amazon sends me 16 emails a day about stuff that I already bought. I largely ignore all 16 of them, but every once in a while I open one. And of the 10 versions of these that I get in a month, I end up buying a recommended product from the list that they're showing me in an email that they sent me just to tell me that my parcel moved 17 inches, right? Do you think Amazon's just being super friendly by emailing me every time my product moves 17 inches? No, right? Of course not. They're trying to get me to open the email. And they know that if I open the email, I have a 63% chance of clicking on something inside the email. And they know that if I get on their website, I have an 85% chance of actually buying something there, right? The percentages are there. The research is there. It's there, right? So it's a the results speak for themselves. Number 5 is Microsoft Bing. This is very similar to Google, so I'm going to go ahead and skip over this one. Number 6 is a PR firm. The question was, should I be hiring somebody? Listen, again, if you have the time to sit around and write blogs, more power to you, right? But this is kind of what a PR company can do for you. They write blogs. They pay to have you listed in the top 10 lists or in well-known blogs or vlogs. They help you connect to social media influencers. This might come as a shock to some of you, but when you pick up GQ magazine and you read the top 10 gifts for Christmas for men, the writer didn't go buy 100 gifts and test them all out and pick the 10 that they liked the most. PR companies reached out and they paid the writer to write about the 10 things that they wrote about. That's it. That's how it works, right? So, you know, that is how you get into those places. It is not happenstance. So 7 is Amazon, utilizing Amazon. I mean, this is a whole new creature. It's very suited to very specific businesses that want to sell on Amazon. So I won't spend a ton of time on this just because, again, it's not suited for everybody and we're kind of short on time. Number 8 is partnerships. So here's the type of partnership that I'm talking about that is able to be utilized for small businesses. I have an older brother. He wanted to sell condos in a condo building. The building was in downtown Columbus. They were having a hard time getting people to come and view the building. So he convinced a bunch of other downtown businesses to give him free whatever it was that they were selling. Like he got a free haircut from a salon. He got a $10 gift card from an ice cream shop. He got one of the restaurants to give him a gift card for a free dinner. He gets all this stuff together. He goes onto to social media and he starts posting. Have you ever wondered what it was like to live downtown? You know, because downtown is full of condo living. And so he's got his target market of people who want to live downtown. He uses Facebook and Instagram to target empty nesters or different hashtags about living downtown or urban living, right? The post makes its way around and every one of the other business owners partners in these posts. They hashtag each other. They can share the communal post. They all post to get as many people into a raffle as possible. Then they raffle off the gift basket at an event showing the condos that are now for sale, right? And so it was all getting in the raffle was all about commenting below about why you would want to live downtown. And so again, this partnership, it's all about being creative with your neighbors or the people that you could share like-minded consumers with. Really, really easy to do, really affordable to do. You just have to be creative and think about it. Number 9 is LinkedIn. This is really key because it's got the largest concentrated location of well-educated people. So if that's an area that you want to be selling into, this is a great platform. It works very similar to the way that Facebook and Instagram work. And then 10, I got too many to count. So I didn't even make a list, but print, billboard, digital billboards, TV, radio, direct mail, it's all out there, it's all available, it all still works. You just have to set your expectations with your budget. And then to go back to the original question of, is this leading towards outsourcing this? You know, if you want to be doing a lot of this stuff, it's really hard to become an expert in all of it. I know a lot about all of this stuff, and I am not an expert in all of it, right? I fashion myself as an expert in Google because I went through the Google University Academy, and I got certifications in Google AdWords, Google Analytics, and Google Digital Sales. But these other things there's things that I've used, but by and large, I rely on other people to do these things for me because, again, I'm just not the expert. But to even dive further into that, the reality of this is you should be spending 4% of your gross sales on advertising. And in turn, your sales should be going up 12% every year. If number two isn't happening, if your sales aren't going up 12% every year, it's probably because you're not spending 4% trying to grow new customers into your business. And if you're doing number one, if you're spending 4% of your gross sales on advertising and number two isn't happening, it's probably because you're giving a subpar product or a mediocre experience. And we need to be thinking about that experience that we can deliver on. And that's where that list of 8 comes into play, those first 7 things, right? What is our word of mouth? What are the things that we aren't in control of? What are people saying about us, right? But too often what I hear from small business owners is we can't afford to do it. Or that we invest 4% of our sales for 3 months and we don't see the return, so that we give up, right? But we have to remember this is a long game. This is planting seeds for the future, right? And so we may not see that 12% in year 1, but we should absolutely see 8 to 10. And it will take time, but we need to give it more time than 3 months. We need to make the right financial commitment to ourselves and to our business to get this thing going in the right direction. And, you know, to talk again about the 4 companies, what do they have? What do the best people have in common? We're talking about a large inventory of possible ad placements. They have advanced analytics and targeting. They do have access to a global market. They're working on mobile support on all big operating systems. You know, but I understand that these things can't all be in common for small businesses locally. But again, we should be taking 4% of our gross sales and spreading it around within that list of 10 that I just gave you. Spread it around to a few of the channels that I discussed today. It's not all going to work, which is why you need to monitor it at all times. And so if you can afford to do that yourself without spreading yourself too thin, great. But my recommendation is usually to hire somebody to do it. And you can hire someone really good. One of my marketing students would graduate with a marketing degree from Wittenberg and take a job in Springfield for $30,000 to $35,000 a year, managing an entire advertising campaign. And if you do this right and you find ways to keep those employees accountable and happy, they will pay for themselves 10, 20, maybe even 30 times over. Or you can hire somebody who's not college educated, and you can probably get somebody for $12 to $15 an hour, and you can train them to do the things that you don't have time to do. Or a third option is you can outsource this to a company who specializes in this. They have multiple accounts and they do this. But again, you cannot treat them like a set it, forget it. Not all marketing consulting companies are great at all these things either. So to me, it would benefit you a lot to really do your homework and due diligence and who is the best in which medium and which ones you want to attack. And then I would create a budget and I would stick to that budget, and I would ultimately hold them accountable for the revenue that they produce, right? They should be producing revenue for you. And again, I hear it all the time. People say that they can't afford to do it. And my argument would be that you can't afford not to do it. This is my name and my cell phone number, and here's the best email address to reach me at. I can help you build your strategy here at the SBDC. I can help you implement it. I can help you track it. I can help you run it. I can discuss results with you. I can help you plan a budget. I can assist with the creative side. I am here for you. You name it, I have done it, and I can help teach you how to do it in the future. So thank you so much for your time. I know I went 14 minutes over my limit, Rob. I sincerely apologize. Please forgive me. But I'm here and ready to take questions. So if we've got any more, let me know.
So I just had one question
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking of at the beginning, and you may have kind of answered it. So I'm going to be opening a small gastro pub.
Okay.
So I suppose when I'm thinking of like Google or expanding your business, my question would be, look, I wouldn't know. Like I wouldn't know how, other than flyers or having people from the local community, on how to get that traction going, advertising something like what I have.
Yeah, I mean, well, just like I said, when I started talking about the Google paid ad placements, walk yourself through the customer journey. Why is somebody going to be going to a gastropub? When are they going to be going there? What sorts of things would you search for? I'm assuming you're opening a gastropub because you're the type of guy who spent a lot of time in gastropubs. Is that correct?
I've spent some time in various different places, yeah.
What process do you go through when you are in an area and you're unfamiliar with the gastropub situation? What do you do? How do you find the gastropubs that you want to go to?
Are you asking me? I was just taking notes. Yeah.
Or, well, and that's fine too. You may not have the answer to that right this very second, right? But that's the sort of thing that you need to walk yourself through. Have you ever gone to Google and said, what can I do on a Friday night? Enter, right? Is that a search that you want to be coming up at the top of? Or is it things to do in Springfield, right? Are those the types of searches that you want to be coming up near the top at? Or is it Facebook ads where you're pushing into the circle of people who are interested in, and you would be able to select this within the back page of Facebook? You would be able to select craft beer drinkers, 21 and up, alcohol, mixed drinks, good food, bar food, right? You could select any number of 100 of these types of things. What happens is Facebook builds its algorithm specified to your page based off what you think your people are interested in.
Nice.
And so it will go out and it will find people in the tiny radius that you've selected, and it will pinpoint every single one of them that have liked, commented, or shared on other posts containing the words that you've selected, such as craft beer, Friday night out, babysitter, whatever, right? Alcoholic drinks, fancy cocktails, all these things, right? And so one person will have made some post that was, hey, I wish I could go have a craft beer somewhere close or something of that nature. It would pinpoint that person, and it would go into their friend list and find 25 similar profiles, and it would push that post in front of all 25 of them. And as they engage with it, as they like it, as they comment on it, as they share it, it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger. But the key is you have to keep this up. You can't make one post and expect it to carry any weight with anyone. You need to make, if you're starting out from scratch, you need probably 10 a day, every day, maybe even more than that. And you need to boost all of them. The good news is boosting hyper locally on Facebook would cost you, for something like this, $2 or $3 for a boosted post. So you could get away with spending $20 a day for a month, and it would be a lot of money, but it wouldn't be it shouldn't be backbreaking amounts of money, right? Combine, and again, it's not enough to just do one, right? You need to divide it up amongst. So I would be all over professional photos that I would have on Instagram for that visual appeal. And I would really, that's sort of the approach that I would probably take. And I might consider another hyper local one, which could be direct mail. And you could direct mail an entire zip code of people a gift card to come in and celebrate the grand opening or something like that. It's tricky. Can be tricky with gastropubs if you don't serve food. If you can't admit people who aren't 21, you can't really limit that through direct mail. So some of that could be wasteful, but it could be beneficial too.
Kevin, to what degree can you kind of go after a competitor's, standing in the community? So if you've got a competitor who's got 10 times the following you do, can you advertise to their followers? And if so, which platforms allow you to do that the best?
It's a good question. I try not to have the captain of industry crush my competitor. I believe I'm rooted in the foundation that traffic breeds traffic. I actually want competitors in my small business space because I believe if my competitors are doing a good job, that just makes more awareness of the space in general. I would open a gastropub right next to another gastropub, or if I owned a gastropub and you opened your gastropub next to me, I would be the first person in the door shaking your hand, welcoming you to the neighborhood. I would not view that as you're here to put me out of business. So I have never really taken that approach, Rob. So I really don't know the answer to that. What I would say the best way to do it would be to try to find some version of piggyback onto what your really successful competitors are doing, so that people are now knowledgeable about the industry that you're in, not just your competitor. Yes, your competitor will continue to get sales, but if your industry is gaining notoriety as well, the total size of the market is going to go up. And if you can capture a certain percentage of the new market, that's not a bad thing for you, right? It can be a really good thing for you also. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and obviously I'm not one to want to crush any small business. More like, I guess kind of what you said, building off of it. If somebody likes to go to smaller locally owned restaurants and Facebook knows they go to those because they check in at them, can I target someone who goes to a restaurant that if they go to that one, they sure would be likely to come to mine too?
Yeah, you can use other business names in your target. So if somebody, let's say you had a restaurant that was Rob's Steakhouse and I had a a restaurant that was Kevin's Burger House. On your business page, when you create a new post, when you fill in the target, you could use my business name as a target. You could say Kevin's Burger House. And what it would do is it would find all of the people who liked, commented, or shared anything Kevin's Burger House related. That could be something, let's say I posted, hey, don't forget to come in for happy hour today. We've got half off of sliders, right? That could mean that, Sally down the street liked the post. She could be a target, right? But also if, Johnny and Susie came to dinner at my restaurant and made a post, like let's say they took a picture of their food and they were like, hey, we went to Kevin's Burger House. It was so great tonight. Like, great food, great atmosphere. It would find that post and it would tag along to that post and would see how much engagement that post got, how many people were liking it and commenting on their post. And then it would boost your Rob's Steakhouse ad in front of those people, or at least as many of them as it deems necessary to give you the exposure it thinks that you need, if that makes sense.
Great. Well, Kevin, I appreciate your time and sharing your expertise. I think you're a fountain of knowledge and a great resource that people can tap into here at the SBDC. If you don't copy down this number, you can always call the office. We'll get you connected with Kevin. And I know that he's going to treat you well and steer you in the right direction. So, Kevin, you're in control of the Zoom meeting, so I'll allow you to log us off, buddy.
Okay. Well, thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks for your kind words. I appreciate it. I really apologize for not being able to be there in person today. My 2-year-old tested positive for COVID, and I'm the only one in my house who had it. So I got the chore of taking care of him on my own. So he's napping in a couple rooms over. So thanks a lot for being understanding and allowing me to do this on Zoom today. And yeah, like Rob said, please reach out to him or to and let's get you started on this path. I'd love to work with you. I love this stuff. If this is why I get up in the morning, is to talk about it and teach about it. So it's a lot of fun. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from some of you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, Kevin. Right. Very useful. Appreciate that.
The